Unforgettable stories out of Western Jamaica from the scrapbooks of Adrian Freighter. Following the 1963 Good Friday, or as the Rastas prefer to call it, Bad Friday incident at Coral Gardens, which saw a bloody clash between Rastafarian sympathizers and members of the Jamaica police force, which ended with deaths on both sides. Rastafarians in Western Jamaica became an endangered species as Jamaica's then Prime Minister Sir Alexander Bustamante instructed the security forces to bring in all Rastas, dead or alive, noting that if there was not enough space at the lockup at the Barney Street police station, the overflow could be accommodated at the Pie River Cemetery on the outskirts of the town. In recounting his experience at the Barnett Street lockup at a Coral Garden memorial event, I remember one elderly Rastafarians telling the audience that the only police officers who did not beat him when he was taken to the Barnett Street lockup was those who did not come to work that day. Following the Coral Gardens incident, which also resulted in the burning of a gas station, the state literally declared war on the Rastafarians, and that became one of the most brutal periods in the history of the movement. The crackdown was perhaps far more brutal than the demolition of Backer Wall in West Kingston to create Valley Gardens, and the multiple raids on Pinnacle in St. Catherine when the government tried to silence Leonard Howell, the founder of the movement, who had ascribed divinity to Emperor Haile Selassie after his coronation on November 2, 1930 as the Emperor of Ethiopia. With Rastafarians on the run following the Coral Garden incident, with even Bustamante himself joining the hunt to bring them in, many of the brethren voluntarily cut their locks and shaved their beards to escape the tribulation, while many fled to the hills of the cockpit country, never to be seen again for 2 or 3 years. Those who were unfortunate to get caught were badly beaten and had their locks and beard forcefully removed, sometimes with broken bottles. The tribulation that was being heaped on the Rastafarians in Western Jamaica came to an abrupt end in April 1966 when Emperor Haile Selassie visited Montego Bay. Many of the Rastafarians who were in exile in the hills were able to come out to meet their king, proudly displaying their locks and beard that they had fought so hard to preserve, as they waved their flags and banner in Charles Square, now Sam Sharp Square, indicating to all and sundry, including the Emperor, that they were the ones who passed through great tribulation and kept their locks as a crown of life. In this edition of Lest You Forget, I will be revisiting the Emperor Haile Selassie visit to Montego Bay, not from personal experience because I was a child at the time, probably no older than 4 or 5, but from the coverage that was provided at the time by the Jamaica Gleaner. While my initial focus will be on the visit to Montego Bay, as bonus I will detail the entire visit. The Gleaner's account of the visit to Montego Bay started with the words on a welcome banner which read as follows: "All hail the King of Kings, the Lion of Judah, the Almighty One. Ye shall break every chain again and again." On Saturday, April 23, the Emperor and his entourage embarked on a train trip to see the western side of the island. Crowds turned out to greet him along the 8-hour journey, where stops were made at Denby, Williamsfield, Magatti, and Montpelier before ending in Montego Bay close to 4 p.m. While not much was written about what was said in the official civic ceremony to welcome the Emperor to Montego Bay, what will always be remembered by the Rastafarian brethren who came out in a spirit of liberation 60 years was the many shouts of surviving Rastafarian brethren who had the chance to see the king up more than 60 years later. Still surviving Rastafarian brethren who had the chance to see the king up close and personal had finally been revered those moments. Their king had come and the shackles of Coral Gardens had finally been broken. as it relates to the start of the visit, which began at the Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston. Tina's account was breathtaking, if not spectacular. In the story, which was published on April 22, 1966, under the headline, Wild Welcome for Negus, the story read as follows. His Imperial Majesty, Haile Selassie I, Emperor of Ethiopia, King of Kings, Conquering Lion of Judah, arrived in Jamaica yesterday afternoon to a welcome of superlatives. And he wept. He cried as he stood on the steps of an aircraft of Ethiopian airliner which had brought him from Trinidad and Tobago to Jamaica, and surveyed the vast and uncontrollable crowd which had gathered at the Palisados airport to greet him. The tears welled up in his eyes and rolled down his face. It will perhaps never be known whether he cried in sorrow at the uncontrollableness of the vast throng of Jamaicans who had gathered to meet him, or out of pure joy, but whatever it was an emotional reaction to an highly emotional welcome. Because from Wednesday night, people had gathered at the Palisados from all parts of Jamaica, coming on foot, in cars, in drays, in carts, in trucks, hired buses, including JOS buses, on bicycles, and by every means of transport that could be imagined. There never has been such a vast crowd at the Palisados airport at any time, and there never has been in the whole history of Jamaica such a spontaneous, heartwarming and sincere welcome to any person, whether visiting monarch, visiting VIP, or returning leader of any Jamaican party. After welcome, His Imperial Majesty said later that he was overwhelmed and deeply moved. It demonstrated, he said, the close ties and affection which binds the people of Jamaica to Africa and Ethiopia. The majority of the people at the airport were Rastafarians and members of African Jamaican societies. They wore a kaleidoscope of African dress. They came from everywhere. From Warwick Hill, from West Kingston. They came from the hills, distances of a compound, from the Irish top mountain of Moortown in the John Crow Mountains. They came from Vere and Milk River, from Johnson Mountain in St. Thomas, from little villages and big towns all the way across from Negril to Moran Point. And they brought with them thousands of colourful Ethiopian flags and buntings, palm leaves, firecrackers, thunderbolts, drums, and the abeng, the famous bulan of the Maroons, which has echoed across the hills of Jamaica from time immemorial. The Emperor's plane, due to arrive in Jamaica at 11 a.m., was delayed by a stop in Barbados. It actually arrived here at 1:35 p.m. and by the time it had taxied up to the reception area, it was 1:40 p.m. By then, it was bedlam. Hundreds of Rastafarians had crashed the VIP line of the cabinet ministers and leading members of the opposition and were weaving hither and thither, under and around the aircraft, not caring at all for the still turning propellers. And by the time the Emperor and his party appeared on the landing way, everything was out of control. It was not until about 2:15 p.m. that the Emperor was able to leave the aircraft and board the Governor General's car and beat a hasty retreat from the tumultuous era that was the Palisados airport. Before that, it had been raining, but the rain did not stop the dancing and flag waving of many Rastafarian groups which thronged the airport. As soon as the plane touched down, when God come, the sun will come out. The sun came out from behind the clouds. As soon as the plane touched down, the rain ceased. The sun came out from behind the clouds, and the crowd erupted everywhere, and there was a roar such as never been heard at the Palisados before, as the first African head of state to visit Jamaica since independence appeared atop of the landing step. The Emperor stood in that position for a very long time, surveying the milling crowd as the authorities feverishly tried to bring order. It would have been the greatest folly to allow him to land at that time because everybody wanted to touch him. There were cries like, "The day has come, God is with us, let me touch the hem of his garment." With government officials and the security forces struggling to maintain order, it took the intervention of Rastafarian elder Martin Plano to retrieve the situation. He went up the landing step and after bowing to the emperor and getting instructions from one of the emperor's aides, he turned and asked the gathering to make way for the emperor. "The emperor has instructed me to tell you to be calm," Mr. Plano stated. "Step back and let the emperor land." Plano got the cooperation of the brethren and the emperor was able to land. As the Governor General's car in which the emperor traveled left the airport, people could be overheard shouting, "Remember me, prepare a place for me in thy kingdom." Throughout the entire day of April 21, no Jamaican leader was particularly noticed. Some, including church leaders who had been invited to the Palisados airport to greet the emperor, left as soon as the disorder began, with shouts from the Rastafarians of, "Go! This is not your day. This is our day. God is here."
Blessed be the Most High Emperor Haile Selassie the first. Jah Rastafarians.
Unforgettable stories out of Western Jamaica from the scrapbooks of Adrian Freitas. Before you go, please remember to subscribe.